Hello, my name is Ben.
And my name's Josh.
And welcome back to FPL graduates, and welcome back to another video. Game week 33 is just round the corner. It feels like game week 32 has only just finished. Not much time to make some decisions. So we're going to be going through our teams for the next game week.
Okay, so yeah, as Ben mentioned, Game Week 32 literally finished yesterday, and then we're already into Game Week 33 on Tuesday. Obviously, 6 o'clock deadline, so if you haven't already, do check your team out. Make sure it's ready for Game Week 33, especially you free hitters, because obviously we all changed our team for 1 week. Now we're back to our original team. For me, last week on the free hit, it was not pleasant. Got a red arrow on the free hit, which is just terrible. Not having a few players that could have, really helped me out, like the likes of Jota and a few others to name. So we're down to 7K now. So that's 2 red arrows in a row. Hopefully this week we can change that around. I'll run through my team at the moment. It could definitely change after the news that's come out tonight, and we'll go into that a little bit more in detail in a moment. So yeah, in goal is Kepa. It's Kepa versus Raya. I've got a lot of Chelsea versus Brentford defensive problems at the moment in my team. I think both teams will score in that game. So it's just basically who's going to get more saves. I think Brentford will really, cause Chelsea problems. Chelsea have been quite poor defensively. So Kepa's in goal. In the defence, I've got Trippier and Estupiñán. I think both of those picks are decent. Newcastle look really good. Trippier's attacking stats are really good as well. He's averaging 0.4 XGI per 90 at the moment, which is crazy. Estupiñán not as high in terms of the attacking stats, but Brighton, Nottingham Forest away. Again, I don't think that's an easy fixture. Nottingham Forest at home are a very, very good side compared to their away form. So it won't be easy for Brighton, but I think Brighton are quite secure at the back. They look really good against United, despite obviously losing on penalties. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on there. And then obviously Chilwell as well. Chilwell's one of these players that I'd happily get rid of, and obviously takes up quite a bit of money for a defender. He's 5.9 million. So he could be on the chopping block. We'll wait and see on that. Moving into midfield, we've got the double up of Brighton, Mitoma and McAllister. Hoping McAllister does play the 10. Obviously, Veltman was benched on the FA Cup semi-final, and Enciso played the 10. That just really deflates McAllister's output from open play. Then you're relying on penalties and stuff like that for him to get a return. So hopefully we'll see Veltman come back in, and Enciso dropped, McAllister in the 10. And then Mitoma, just doing Mitoma type things, really good on the eye. Doesn't really have the stats to back it up. But, if you watch football, you will see that he's probably Brighton's most creative and dangerous asset to own. Grealish and Rashford as well, the Manchester boys in the midfield. Grealish, Arsenal at home. The right-hand side, of that Arsenal defence is extremely poor at the moment. Rob Holding and Ben White. Obviously, Saliba confirmed pretty much out of that Manchester City game. Just makes me really want to load up on those City assets. I think it could be one of those games where City just score a lot of goals against this Arsenal team. And obviously, Grealish is on that side. He's been playing really, really well as well. So he'll be an interesting pick. And obviously, Rashford as well, coming back from injury. He hasn't looked too sharp. I thought he looked a lot better in the FA Cup than he did in Europa League. But it'll be interesting to see how he does against the Tottenham side, who are just having a managerial roundabout going on right now. So that'll be interesting. And then up top, we've got Isaac, the man in form at the moment, Everton away. I'll be shocked if you don't get a return there. I'm a little bit worried about minutes. Obviously, there's a lot of fixtures back to back for Newcastle. They do have options up top with Wilson and himself. So that'll be interesting to see. Haaland's on the captaincy. That will not change, as I mentioned, about how ropey that Arsenal defence looks. And then obviously Harry Kane is still in the team. He still keeps ticking by, even though when they're getting battered 6-1, he still somehow manages to damage my rank and get himself a goal. Bench-wise, as I mentioned, Raya, Mings, not a bad option this week. Rico Henry, that Brentford defence. And then last but not least is Bruno Fernandes. If Lewis, the editor, good old boy, can you bring up the photo of Bruno Fernandes now? He's obviously on a sofa, looking not great, to be fair. His ankles all taped up. He's got a moon boot and crutches. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but that does not look good. And if I had to put money on it, I'd say he's definitely going to miss that Tottenham game. What is your thoughts on the Bruno situation and then my team, Ben?
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see with Bruno Fernandes. I think obviously it's not a good look that he's in the boot right now, but let's see what Ten Hag says in the pressers. I think there's not much many managers can do this week. There's going to be a lot of them who are going to ship him out for someone like Salah. And I think if you've got the funds to do it and you are able to do it a week earlier than everyone else, it's not a bad shout. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of benching headaches anyway this week. So a lot of people have quite deep benches and can sort of afford to maybe bench Bruno for a week to gain a bit more information about that injury. Obviously, it doesn't look good for his playing prospects in the next couple of weeks or so. But yeah, in terms of your overall team, yeah, a bit of a benching headache for you as well with Tyrone Mings, Fulham at home. That seems like quite a nice fixture. Fulham have been a bit hit or miss over the last sort of couple of months or so. So I can definitely see Mings potentially getting a return there. And it's whether you want to risk the Chelsea double up in defence. I think that's the big decision for you, to double up on the defence on Chelsea or negate the risk and bring in Tyrone Mings. At this stage in the season, with the rank that you've got at the moment, it might be sensible to protect it a little bit by sort of splitting the risk. But obviously, yeah, if Chelsea do keep a clean sheet and if Chilwell does get an attacking return, I think out of sort of the choice between the two, Chilwell's probably more likely to get an attacking return. So it's sort of weighing up those options and seeing which one sort of could provide you the higher ceiling and potentially the most points.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I really don't fancy Chelsea in terms of their defence at the minute. They've been quite poor. But my transfer plans at the moment would be looking at the likes of Trent. He's been playing really well. He's got, I think, like 3 assists in his last 2 games in that new sort of formation Liverpool have made. So he looks really good. I can't go to him straight from Chilwell. I can go to Robertson and Van Dijk, but not quite up to Trent. Obviously, that Mo Salah move is just sort of screaming out Bruno Fernandes to Salah, but I can't do it in one move either. So maybe the likes of dropping down Harry Kane might have to happen, but all of these transfers would require a hit. So it's whether I, just stay with this 11 or with Mings in, as Ben mentioned, or do I take the hit, go for it this week, potential upside there. I'm not too sure yet, but we'll get into Ben's team and then we'll do a little overall consensus at the end.
Okay, so into my team for this week. You're going to see quite a few similarities. Obviously, the template is quite strong at the moment. I've also gone for Kepa in goal over Raya. I think Chelsea just got that higher chance of a clean sheet at home compared to sort of Brentford playing away at Chelsea. And obviously, there's that save point potential there. So I'm going Kepa. Again, like Josh, I'm not too confident that we're going to see a huge points sort of ceiling this week in terms of all defensive assets, in my opinion. I don't think there's any sort of standout fixtures you think they're guaranteed a clean sheet. It could be one of those weeks where it's slightly low scoring, just because the fixtures aren't the greatest. And as well, it's a midweek game week. We could see some rotation here and there from other teams. Obviously, Estepinian in the defence. Forest away, I like the fixture. Again, could see some rotation in that Brighton team. They played 120 minutes of a tough match at the weekend. So could potentially see some rotation. I've gone with the double up of the Newcastle defence again. It's not gone too well at all since I've doubled up on them. But with Everton not looking great at all going forwards, I think if there's any team that's going to keep a clean sheet this week, I would like to hedge something on Newcastle doing that. Obviously, they kept a clean sheet, Crystal Palace against Everton last time out, albeit they were down to 10 men. So Everton away is one of the nicer fixtures this game week. I've kept Saka in this week. I mean, it's a tough one because I do anticipate that Man City Arsenal game being an absolute goal fest. But it just depends whether Arsenal can get involved in the action as well. I think they're going to score, but it's just where it's going to come from. And Saka seems to be the talisman still. And Arteta has confirmed that he's still on penalties as well. The McAllister issue, Josh touched on it a little bit earlier. I do think it's not as big of a risk as sort of, and a bit as big of a problem as first thought, just because I don't think Enciso plays sort of every single minute of every single game. And if he's not on the pitch, McAllister slots into that number 10. There isn't anyone sort of with the quality that McAllister has in that 10. I do anticipate sort of with Brighton having a couple of players coming back from injury, like Joel Veltman, I do think McAllister sort of will push back up in centre midfield. We just know, like Bruno Fernandes, that he can play both roles. Solly March is a decent pick for this week. Nottingham Forest tend to be quite weak on the side that Solly March operates. And the same can be said for Jack Grealish as well. Like I said, there's going to be goals in that Arsenal game regardless. And then, Rashford, Tottenham away, Tottenham in absolute turmoil. So I anticipate, again, both teams scoring potentially in that game. So that's why I've gone Kane as well. And then Haaland captaincy, it's very obvious to do. Arsenal have the second worst XG conceded in the league and have conceded one of the most amount of chances through the centre of the pitch since the restart as well. So I do think Haaland picks up a haul in there. And then on the bench is a tough benching decision. I've gone Luke Shaw on the bench. João Felix, I've lost all faith in. And Rico Henry there with Raya as the keeper. So that's what the team's looking like. Josh, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're in a better spot than I am at the moment. I like the Newcastle double defense. Like you said, I think if any team keeps clean sheet, I think it would be those two. Botman is just 6-point ceiling though, which is the disappointment. I think a lot of managers would rather Shah. I know that's easy to say in hindsight after he's got 2 assists, but I think he would be the better pick in general. But overall, it looks really good. Saka's going to be interesting because I think the only way Arsenal win that game is by outscoring Manchester City. I can't see them shutting up shop and keeping them out for 90 minutes. So yeah, I don't think he's definitely not a bad player to play. And yeah, I think overall you'll be happy this week. Probably roll a transfer, like you said. You got decent options on the bench. Even Felix is not a bad option against Brentford. It'll be interesting to see how that Brentford Chelsea game does. Because I think it's a lot of players who have wildcarded when me and you will have players from both sides. So it's just which ones are you going to play? Because Brentford have been really good at those top 6 sides at getting points and getting results. So whether they can do it against a Chelsea side who have been really poor under Frank Lampard, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see with that. Obviously, Chelsea with such a deep squad as well, there's going to be rotation in that team too. And I don't think we're going to see sort of a team as fatigued. I think, there will be effects shown more from the Brentford side. But yeah, for me, the target and the aim is to roll the free transfer and utilize 2 free transfers in the double game week. And it's more than likely that I'm going to bring in the Liverpool assets for this double game week. 2 home fixtures is really good for next week. Fulham and Spurs, both teams who I back Liverpool score 3 or 4 against potentially, if they can keep sort of this mini resurgence that they're doing up. So it could be a couple of big assets coming out next week potentially. But yeah, aiming to roll the free transfer is probably a good move this week. Obviously, this is a game week in midweek. We could see injury, we could see rotation, we could see anything. So it is sensible for most cases to save that free transfer for next week.
Okay, so we've shown you our teams now. So we're going to just talk about a couple of transfer targets that are on our radars. Obviously, Ben mentioned that he's probably looking to roll this week. I'm a bit 50-50 myself. Obviously, he doesn't have the Bruno Fernandes sort of conundrum, whether I should go Salah a week early, but he's definitely on my radar. I think if you're looking at Liverpool attackers, there is no one better than Mo Salah. I think even Diogo Jota, yes, okay, he's played really well the last 2 weeks, but he is still a rotation risk with the amount of players Liverpool have on their bench. Diaz, Nunez, Gakpo, Firmino, there are so many of them. So I think, him in that double, whether he plays 180 minutes, I think is highly unlikely compared to Mo Salah, who will probably play 180 minutes in that. Not saying that he's bad options. I still think, even if he plays 60, 70 minutes, he is still going to pick up returns. But from my point of view, I think Mo Salah is number 1 priority, followed by Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, who seems to be just creating loads of chances. That old Trent that we know and love in FPL seems to be a little bit back. Other than that, I think defensively, Victor Lindelof at 4.1 million could be a decent little shout if you're trying to save budget. Obviously, if you're trying to cram the likes of Salah, Jota, they're quite expensive assets in your teams. He's only 4.1 million. He'll be nailed down probably until the end of the season. You can keep him on your bench. Obviously, United do double in 34 as well, so it could be a decent option there. Who have you got on your transfer list, Ben?
So, funnily enough, Salah is going to be probably the guy to come in for me this week. With a lot of players and a lot of managers, their budget is going to allow to move up to Salah in one move. As you said, a lot of managers are going to have sort of the mid-price Brighton players, the mid-price Arsenal players in their team. So looking to sort of save 1 transfer this week, which means you don't have to take the -4 for Salah, is definitely sensible. In terms of other assets, you are really looking for that double game week in 34. This week, really, there's not loads of games to be made or lost. Liverpool are playing away this week against West Ham. West Ham are starting to look really good again over the last couple of games at least. So it's not essential this week to bring him in, but next week I definitely think it's advisable and viable to do so. In terms of other assets, you're potentially looking at Manchester City with their double next week. They've got quite a tasty double too. So having a double or even a triple up is going to be a good idea. We've also got to remember Newcastle got some good fixtures coming up. They've got a double as well coming up. So there's definitely a few different avenues you can go down to sort of target different teams. But for now, obviously, the biggest double game week left of the season is the one that's next week. So definitely look to base your transfers, if you're going to do any this week, around next week as well.
Okay, so that wraps up our Game Week 33 preview team reveal. It's a bit of everything crammed into one because we ain't got enough time to do all the single videos. We hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also like the video as well.
Yeah, and as always, please remember to follow us on all of our socials. And as usual, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later. Have a good game week, everyone.